how did you get that footage of Diddy?
I figured most journalists would not disclose their sources.
If Sean Combs watches this, what do you think he's going to feel?
Like, wow, this is amazing. I think he's going to say this is the best documentary I've seen in a long time. My favorite villain? I kind of like Diddy.
There are no misconceptions about it. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Love you. You do a lot.
Is this real life? I feel crazy. The world is spinning around me. What's happening? You have 4 eyes. I have 2 fingers. Ah!
For years, the warning signs were there, embedded in plain sight, dressed up as cultural moments, and quietly dismissed by an industry that had every reason to look the other way. Uncomfortable footage became internet fodder. Troubling patterns were repackaged as celebrity quirks. And the harder questions? They simply never made it past the green room. But now, with 50 Cent stepping forward and shining a documentary-sized spotlight on the shadows, as the conversation has been forcefully reopened, and this time it's not going away quietly. The timeline surrounding Diddy and his long-standing influence over the entertainment industry is being pulled apart and re-examined with fresh eyes. At the center of that re-examination sits a dynamic that many inside the business understood but few dared to address publicly. The relationship between one of music's most powerful architects and a teenage pop sensation who was pulled into that orbit well before he had the life experience to fully understand what it meant. Justin Bieber didn't just cross paths with Diddy. He was absorbed into a world where access, influence, and status moved like currency. And youth was rarely treated as something that required protecting. This isn't a story born from social media speculation or recycled tabloid gossip. It's a deeper reckoning with how truth survives inside industries where silence is professionally rewarded. When the right people benefit from keeping certain stories buried, those stories tend to stay buried, sometimes for decades. What's changing now is that the weight of what was ignored is finally becoming too heavy to carry without consequence.
Yeah, so as soon as you turn 16, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let you rock this every time you come to LA. Yeah, it's gonna be yours. So every time you come to LA, it's a little dusty, but you know, come get the first shot of this.
Man.
And that out. Minute.
Woo. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna be driving this next year.
Yeah, when you get 16, you tell me how you gotta, you know, wear your seat.
I mean, I'm 15. You could ride in the passenger seat. I got my permit. Not yet.
No.
All right, 16.
No,
16.
Slow down. Let's slow down, Josh.
Okay.
Let's slow down. Okay.
One step at a time.
But yeah, the keys is yours when you get 16. You good to go.
I'm good to go.
Yeah.
All right.
Then when you get 18, you get the house. You get the mansion.
Okay. I get the mansion.
Yeah.
All right. So where are we off to now?
Where would you like to go?
I mean, wherever you want to go. Where are we going?
So check this out, yo. Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him. He signed to Usher.
I'm signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full crazy.
I'm going crazy.
Crazy.
I'm taking this out tonight.
What you wanna do? What you wanna do over the next 48 hours?
48 hours. Let's go. Let's just go get some girls. Let's go hang with some girls.
A man after my heart. That's what I'm talking about, kid.
On the surface, Justin Bieber's rise read like a fairy tale engineered for the digital age a small-town kid discovered online, catapulted to global stardom, and celebrated as the face of a new generation of pop. But behind the carefully curated image and the sold-out arenas was a far more complicated reality, one that the industry was never particularly eager to examine too closely. Old interviews and archival footage, now being revisited with a much more critical lens, paint a striking picture. A young performer, still a minor, routinely placed inside adult spaces where the rules of engagement were set by people with far more power, far more money, and far more to lose than he did. The adults in those rooms weren't there to protect him. They were there to leverage him. And for years, the footage documenting exactly that was treated not as evidence of something deeply wrong, but as content clipped, shared, and laughed off as just another slice of celebrity life. The pattern wasn't hidden. It was normalized. And that normalization is precisely what makes the story so unsettling. When an entire industry conditions itself to treat the exposure of minors as standard operating procedure, the problem stops being about individual bad actors and starts being about a culture that collectively decided accountability was someone else's job. Fame, it turns out, is a remarkably effective silencer, and when youth becomes a tradable commodity rather than something to be safeguarded. The real question isn't who took advantage, it's who stood by and decided not to say a word.
You got people in the industry that's been saying for years, this man is having sex with underage. So now the federal government is looking at that like, yo, when is somebody going to come forward? We got this information, this alleged information, but nobody's willing to come forward. Then they go on and say, yo, Shakur Stewart mysteriously dead. Supposed to be a self-inflicted wound. Person that had everything going for him in their life. Kim Porter dead. Somebody's car gets blown up. This guy is walking around threatening other actors, people. Somebody got to get involved in it. If it ain't the state, let it be the feds. Somebody got to stop him. He lucky that God giving him the opportunity to be stopped while he's alive, didn't have to go to hell and face that shit. He got a chance to repent now, change his life.
You mentioned minors, and a lot of people have been trying to drag Justin Bieber into this situation because there's a lot of suspect looking videos with Diddy and Bieber in it, and they're making...
For the better part of 2 decades, 50 Cent existed in a peculiar position relative to Diddy's world, close enough to understand the ecosystem, but deliberately distanced from its inner workings. His commentary on Combs was never subtle, and it was never quiet. But for years, the entertainment press and the industry at large were far too comfortable filing those remarks under rap beef and moving on. Rivalry was a cleaner narrative. It required less courage to accept. Now, with federal scrutiny bearing down and public sentiment shifting at a speed that few saw coming, those same remarks are being replayed with an entirely different emotional frequency. What once read as trash talk now reads as testimony. What was once dismissed as ego now looks, in retrospect, like a man who saw something and refused to stay completely silent about it, even when staying silent would have been the easier and more professionally convenient choice. That doesn't mean every claim deserves to be accepted without scrutiny, but it does mean something significant about how warnings travel through powerful industries. Cautions, concerns, and red flags rarely arrive wrapped in formal language or delivered through official channels. More often, they surface through the people closest to the edges of a situation, people who lack the institutional protection to speak loudly, but who are close enough to the heat to feel it. The uncomfortable truth is that warnings tend to get buried not because they are implausible, but because the messenger is someone the system would rather discredit than hear. And beyond the personal dynamic lies a broader structural reality. Diddy's reach extended well past music production and record deals. It shaped who got access to rooms where careers could be made overnight or quietly derailed without a single public explanation. Justin Bieber's place within that orbit wasn't incidental. It reflected an industry-wide pattern in which advancement for young talent was filtered through powerful gatekeepers who operated with very little oversight and even less accountability.
You know, Diddy bought his son a Bentley. Maybe, you know, he could buy you one also.
Got me a Lamborghini. And
Oh, well, that's nice.
I haven't gotten it yet, though.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. When is that coming, that Lamborghini? We talked about this last
He
time.
had the Lamborghini for a day or two, and he had access to the house, and he knows better than to be talking about the things that he does with Big Brother Puff on national television.
Well, apparently not. Something, everything.
You believe the guy in the tape is white?
If he's bigger than Diddy, and he's not none of the names that I said, probably so. But then they say he was young too.
Yeah, they say he was young.
Let me get his name right. I hope it ain't the Bieber. I hope it's not the Bieber.
That's a good one. It might be him. But if they saying that the guy is young and he's an A-lister, I can't think of that many black people, man.
Right. Not at all. And somebody that more powerful, more of a celebrity than Diddy. You understand what I'm saying? If they were saying somebody that was more celebrity than Diddy, he was an A-lister, he was younger. You know what I'm saying? And if he's not black, it would have to be the Bieber. That's his name, Bieber? They said I got that wrong too. Justin Bieber, allegedly. I don't know, bro.
Right. But when you heard the news that Diddy, he had a tape with another man, did that catch you by surprise or no?
Well, all this shit is by surprise to me. A lot of this shit is by surprise to me, to be totally honest, man. Because I knew Puff, I knew Puff Daddy.
Strip away the celebrity names and the headline drama, and what remains is a structural problem that the entertainment industry has never been particularly willing to confront honestly. When success is built around proximity to power, the boundaries that should exist between ambition and exploitation start to erode, slowly at first, and then all at once. Caution begins to look like naivety. Deference gets rebranded as professionalism. And somewhere in that process, the people with the least power are left carrying the most risk. The real fault line in systems like these isn't a single person or a single incident, it's authority. Specifically, who holds it, who benefits from it, and who gets crushed when they dare to push back against it. The question of who can genuinely say no without facing professional destruction is not a hypothetical. It is the defining question of every industry where access and advancement are controlled by a small number of extraordinarily powerful individuals. And it's a question the industry has been extraordinarily skilled at avoiding.
Knew Diddy before he was Love and Brother Love and back to Diddy. So, no, but the diddler, he's the diddler now. A lot of it's surprising, but it's not unheard of. Because you hear of all kinds of shit, and whether it registered with you or you internalize it or something like that, that's a whole nother story. But a lot of this stuff is crazy. But this is the world that we live in now, man. That these individuals thinks it's all right. Bruh, when does it comes all right to be sitting there eating food off a naked woman? When did we start doing what they do? Let's keep it a buck. When did we start doing what they do? These guys is popping pills. They got Jay-Z dancing with a chick that's into.
As the legal and cultural pressure around Diddy began to build, something predictable happened. The voices that had once been loudest in his corner started going quiet. Carefully worded statements replaced direct endorsements. Public appearances were reconsidered. Associations that had once been worn proudly became liabilities to be managed. The industry's instinct for self-preservation kicked in, and it kicked in fast. Against that backdrop, now 50 Cent's decision to hold his position and in fact to amplify it through documentary filmmaking stood out in sharp relief. Because what he exposed wasn't just a personal history with Combs. It was an unwritten rule that everyone in that world understood, but nobody ever put into plain language. Speaking up costs you something real, and staying silent protects something equally real. Loyalty and self-interest eventually become indistinguishable from one another. Us and the system thrives precisely because of that blurred line. This isn't about panic-driving decisions in boardrooms and management offices. It's about cold calculation. In an industry where professional survival frequently depends on who you're aligned with and who you're not willing to cross, silence isn't passivity, it's strategy. And when silence becomes the dominant strategy, the question that surfaces is one the industry has never comfortably answered. Can genuine accountability actually exist inside a structure specifically designed to protect itself from it?
Make you change your mind. Look at little Nas X. He fizzled out fast too.
So would you say someone like Justin Bieber is a victim? I just seen he is reportedly selling his whole catalog because he's broke.
Yeah. Yeah. And once he finishes getting that money, I don't understand why he's broke. He didn't have to be broke. Usher just wouldn't stop robbing him.
Damn.
I mean, Usher couldn't keep his hands out of his pocket. It's funny. He got him signed and turned over custody to Diddy. And boy was never the same, and neither was Usher's pockets, because Usher's been living off of Justin Bieber's money. He ain't been living off of his own. Because the truth is, Usher don't really make that kind of money. And I'm really just kind of sick and tired of Usher reign.
Yeah,
I'm really kind of disgusted with Usher reign, who does Greek wrestling nude with men over Frosted Flakes, allegedly. Like, I'm sick and tired of this guy who everyone knows got the Diddy bumps, who's been sued for passing them on and lost, is still sitting there disgracing women in front of their men who bought the tickets to like that whole scheme.
He's causing a lot of divorce courts.
But why? He don't even want them. He don't want them women. He's literally doing it just to destroy relationships.
Justin Bieber has never stood in front of a camera and leveled a criminal accusation at Sean Combs. That fact is important, and it deserves to be stated clearly. But the absence of a formal allegation doesn't close the door on a far more nuanced and troubling conversation, one that Bieber himself has, in various ways and at various points in his life, quietly opened. Over the years, Bieber has spoken with a raw candor about the psychological weight of being launched into the stratosphere of global fame as a child. He has talked about anxiety that became consuming, emotional instability that went unaddressed for years, and the particular exhaustion that comes from being surrounded by adults with competing agendas when you're still too young to fully recognize the difference between someone who has your interests at heart and someone who is simply using your proximity to advance their own. Those reflections don't arrive with a neat narrative bow. They don't point to one moment or one individual. But they do something arguably more significant. They dismantle the comfortable fiction that youth and fame can coexist without serious cost when no one in the room is genuinely prioritizing the young person's protection. His story isn't evidence in a legal sense, but it is a portrait of what it looks like when a system treats a child as an asset rather than a human being still in the process of becoming one. And that portrait, rendered in his own words across years of interviews, is impossible to look at without recognizing the damage that accumulates quietly when safeguarding is never the primary concern.
I watched a video of an interview of Justin Bieber, and he was talking about Billie Eilish. And he was like, he was broke, almost in tears. He's like, I just want to protect her. I just want to keep her safe.
Yeah.
What do you think he went through?
Because he knows what's been happening to Billy. Just like everybody knew what was happening to Millie Bobby Brown girl with Drake. These people are monsters.
life. So, if that ain't real life, that ain't happening.
It ain't real life. Just ain't real life street stars. You know what time it is.
Jermaine Dupri said something interesting. He said the reason that R&B isn't as powerful as it is anymore is because children are going to church.
Yeah.
What is it about the transfer from the spiritual to the secular that would do you believe that's what made R&B so powerful?
Understand this. Rhythm and blues was a combination of gospel and soul music. Because soul music has always been around in one form or another. It's just evolved throughout the years. When you got gospel, rhythm and blues, that's what put that together. That's why they made such a big stink about the Ray Charles incorporating gospel sounds into secular music. Because they wanted people to separate the two. This is demon, this is good. The truth is none of that's real. There is no bad, there is no good. There is what is and there is what is not. And that's sad. But when you take the spirit that comes from that.
It's worth being precise about what this conversation is and isn't. It is not a courtroom. It is not an attempt to assign criminal guilt or to render a verdict on anyone's conduct in the absence of due process. What it is, what it has always been, at its most serious, is an attempt to understand human impact. And to take seriously the ways that impact can manifest without ever producing the kind of single dramatic moment that the public tends to demand before it's willing to acknowledge that something went wrong. Harm doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't always leave visible marks or generate headlines in real time. Sometimes it surfaces years later, wearing the face of instability or chronic anxiety, or a kind of quiet pain that was never given the language or the space to be properly identified. When pressure and exposure are structural, when they're baked into the architecture of an entire industry rather than attached to one specific incident, damage can accumulate across years in ways that resist easy explanation or simple attribution. That reality should force a harder and more honest reflection. Why do we require a single clean accusation before we're willing to acknowledge that something inside the system failed? Why is the bar for recognizing systemic harm so much higher than the bar we set for recognizing individual wrongdoing? And if the root of the damage is structural rather than singular, what does accountability that actually means something even look like?
Testified against Diddy to the grand jury and had to give up 8 videotapes to the feds that contained celebrities in these freak-offs with Diddy, is now listing some of the names that he saw on these tapes. And this man said that he got these tapes from a very close friend of Kim Porter's, and these were Kim Porter's tapes that she was going to use against Diddy. And some of the names that he says are some that we have heard rumored over the years. He said he saw Justin Bieber on this tape and he appeared to be underage during this time. He also saw Usher on these tapes, and Usher definitely appeared to be underage. And this one gave me the chills because we've heard that Usher is the one that sent Justin Bieber to Diddy. Courtney Burgess sat down with the Too Strong channel here on YouTube and started naming some of the celebrities that he saw on these tapes.
Were kids involved in these parties that you can verify from looking at the tapes?
If Justin Bieber was older than he's supposed to have been, yes. If Usher was older, well, Usher was definitely young.
Okay.
You understand? His shoulder part with his, the blood was all in his bed. You understand? It looked like they came home from a event, a party or something.
Went on to explain how Danny Boy was also in one of these videos with Mary J. Blige and Diddy together. And Danny Boy admitted when he was 15 that Mary J. Blige flew him out to New York and he slept with her while he was underage.
Danny Boy, okay.
You know what Danny Boy is?
I heard that before. I don't, I've been so far away from hip hop, I forgot, but I have heard that name, Danny Boy.
Danny Boy, back then, he looked like he was about 16. They both was about.
He also claimed that Jaden Smith, Will Smith's son, were in these videos, and he also said that there was photographs and videos of Diddy eating off of young girls.
Pictures or images of any of this stuff?
Yeah, I got Justin Bieber. Will Smith's son, just whatever his name is. Other females on the table, they was young. He was eating off them. A lot of entertainments in there. I got calls from certain of them wanting to get the tape out of my hand. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about.
And I had said that if this man testified to the grand jury, the feds had to have some reason to bring him in to actually testify against Diddy. But y'all let me know what you guys think about this man naming all of the people on the Diddy tapes in the comments.
The moment Diddy's legal situation moved from the court of public opinion into a federal courtroom, the entire register of the conversation changed. What had previously existed as speculation, allegation, and cultural debate was suddenly subject to the discipline of formal legal procedure filings, motions, testimony under oath, and the specific bounded language of indictments. The courtroom imposes its own standards of evidence, and those standards matter. But they also carry a limitation that doesn't always get acknowledged in the rush to follow the proceedings. Courts are built to evaluate conduct. They are remarkably sophisticated instruments for determining what a specific person did or did not do within a legally defined framework. What they are not designed to do is audit a culture or deliver a verdict on the institutional failures that allowed a pattern of behavior to go unchallenged for years. The legal process can hold an individual accountable. It cannot, by itself, reckon with the industry-wide dynamics that made that individual's behavior possible, sustainable, and for a very long time protected. There is a gap between legality and morality, and it is a gap that formal proceedings, however thorough, cannot fully close. A case can be decided, a record can be sealed, sentences can be served, and still, the deeper structural questions remain sitting exactly where they were before the first filing was submitted. When the gavel comes down and the courtroom empties, the more difficult reckoning is still waiting. Does accountability end at the verdict, or is that the moment where the truly hard work is supposed to begin?
Do you think he has a mole or an informant in his camp that's cooperating?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Listen, bro. Just doing law enforcement myself, just take for instance. I think the individual was a Syracuse former basketball player named Jason Barnes or Beard or something like that. He already had drug charges against him. The day Diddy house get raided, they catch him getting on a plane and they put him into custody. Didn't that sound a little weird? People didn't catch that. They either put him in custody for a couple of reasons. You understand? One, to make a witness out of him, or to safeguard him and protect him for anything that could happen to him, because they had already stated, allegedly, that he was some kind of mule for the people over there at Diddy's house. So now, with that information, that he was already known by the government for drug charges, wouldn't that be an individual that you use? I'm gonna give you something different. And I'm gonna give you something else that people don't even think. On the other day, I seen on the video that Puff had ran into Justin Bieber. They met up and he started tapping him as if he was searching him and see if he had some kind of device on. Did you see that?
Yep.
Check this out. What if the federal government have already talked to Justin Bieber? And Diddy did that on tape. That means in his mind, he think this person may be a witness, right?
Pull back far enough from the individual names and the specific incidents, and a pattern emerges that is neither new nor unique to this particular chapter of music industry history. What the overlapping stories of 50 Cent, Diddy, and Justin Bieber illuminate when examined together Honestly, and without the distortion of celebrity mythology, is something fundamental about how power organizes itself at the top of the entertainment world, and what that organization costs the people at the bottom. Authority concentrates upward. Vulnerability flows downward. And accountability, when it arrives at all, tends to arrive late, incomplete, and usually only after the damage has already been done. Youth gets packaged and marketed as authenticity, a quality to be monetized rather than a stage of development to be protected. Proximity to power gets reframed as mentorship, a privilege rather than a potential hazard. And silence gets rewarded as a mark of professionalism. Reinforcing a culture in which imbalance doesn't register as troubling because it has been normalized into the wallpaper of the industry itself. This has never been about reducing an enormously complex situation to a single villain. The more honest and more uncomfortable argument is that the same fundamental framework, operating across different eras and different rosters of names, keeps producing the same category of fallout. Different faces, same architecture. Different headlines, or same structural failure. And if that's true, if the pattern is the problem rather than any one person within it, then the question the industry needs to sit with is not whether this particular case was handled correctly. It's whether we have reached the point where the system itself can no longer be treated as background noise and must finally be recognized as the story.